Now it's time to hear the labor perspective. I'm delighted to be joined by Zoe Lipman, the Director of Manufacturing and Advanced Transportation at the BlueGreen Alliance, a partnership of labor unions and environmental organizations, and John Paul Smith, although I've been given permission, I think, to call him JP, Legislative and Policy Representative from the United Steelworkers. We were just discussing them, the largest private sector union in North America. Welcome to you both. Thank you so much. Zoe, let me just start out with you to kind of take us down and explain the significance of clean technology manufacturing, where it fits. And I don't know if you heard Congresswoman Dingell, but as you talk about it and tell us what it is and how far we have to go to get there, Debbie Dingell said, you know, when her constituents hear the word green, they worry about losing their jobs. So we'll start with you how to fix that, and then we'll jump to JP.
Sure, and I think that's a great lead-in because, you know, not only do I think we all know that, you know, manufacturing is a critical part of our economy, critical not only to jobs, to R&D, but it has the potential to support millions of family-supporting jobs, but it hasn't always delivered on that promise. And as we're moving into cleaner technologies, whether that's in the energy sector or in this case, in the motor vehicle sector, the car and truck industry, we have an opportunity to, depending on what action we take now, we have an opportunity for this transformation in the vehicle sector to either rebuild and strengthen our manufacturing sector, improve job quality, or if we don't act, risk falling behind the rest of the world and ceding more jobs overseas. We're seeing, you know, these are huge markets. We're seeing countries worldwide moving fast, not only to make their nations leading markets for advanced technology, but to ensure that they're capturing the manufacturing and jobs gains. And now is the time for us to act to do likewise. And I will just say, when we think about the vehicle sector, we're really talking about not only the vehicle assembly sector, but full range of technology, from the components that go into it to the materials and technology that goes into those components. I might punt to JP that he knows that better than anyone, but we have a transformative opportunity to rebuild and strengthen our manufacturing across these sectors as the industry shifts.
Well, thank you. Well, JP, you know, I'll ask you a similar question, but, you know, I have to tell you, I have friends, you know, in the green movement who are not as enlightened as where Zoe is. And when they hear the words manufacturing, they hear the words steel workers, they start boiling. And so I'm just wondering, you know, as we talk about, you know, not only this alliance, but actually a big transition in the manufacturing side of, say, e-trucks, which we're discussing today, how deep can we make that alliance? What do we have to do by way of trust building in, you know, between these communities?
Oh, thank you for that. And that's a pretty important aspect for us. Oftentimes we feel like we have a choice to either have good manufacturing jobs or to improve and protect our environment. And the fact is we can actually do both of those. You know, people who hear steel workers and they think that, you know, we make steel, and we do. We make steel and other basic metals. But also, in particular in this sector, we make rubber and tire and glass and kind of all these various components that go into these, along with, I understand you had Jack Allen from Proterra on the program a little earlier. We actually build the buses and propulsion systems at Proterra for the e-buses. And so I think we can do both. And our union is really committed to doing that, to have sound protective environmental practices while at the same time having good union manufacturing jobs.
You know, before I leave you, JP, let me just ask you, you know, as you kind of look at the challenges in manufacturing and the human capital side, the worker side, you know, do we need to invest in training? Is there a different set of skill sets that are needed? Or is it just plug and play? You can come in with what we've got and we don't really need to invest in human capital. What are those transition elements of building a good, solid workforce in the e-truck world?
We absolutely need public investment in training and retooling and building, some of these facilities that are needed. You take today, there's approximately 150,000 workers in our country that make engines and transmissions. And as we go to electrify the transportation sector or have lower emissions across the transportation sector, we kind of have a choice here. We can either grasp this new technology, train workers, retool factories, or we can let our foreign competitors just dominate this market share. And so while we have to balance, the diminishing market share of ICE or internal combustion engine vehicles, at the same time we can grasp this new technology. And so we're trying to be really forward-looking here while we know that our workers can do this work. When American workers are trained, they can compete with anyone in the world. And so we really need public investment in retooling and retraining our workers.
Zoe, this may be an unfair, kind of out of left field question, but I remember that the United States was the leader at one point in solar panel, development, production, R&D. The national labs were involved too. We'll look at that ecosystem of R&D and creation of a very important renewable sector. You could also go to wind, which has much more high tech in it than people understand and know. Europe and the United States were key there. But China, not to demonize in any sense, invested heavily in these areas and arguably began dumping in many areas in solar. So they were basically, subsidizing huge R&D then in the industry. And so it made it very, very hard for U.S. producers to survive in that area. And there are almost no major producers of solar that I know of, of the cells and whatnot in the U.S. They're abroad or in China or elsewhere. How do we avoid this story being like that we're getting, the Green-Blue Alliance, we're focusing on e-truck transition, we're looking at infrastructure coming in. How do we get to a point where we look at this as a critical industry and a critical national priority that needs a response so that other global competitors don't engage in the same kind of dumping and kind of pernicious competition, if you will?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. The short answer is we have the tools we need. We need to act now on a comprehensive strategy, not only to lead in these technologies, whether it's offshore wind, whether it's solar, whether it's in the next generation of clean and electric vehicles, and also to ensure that we are acting to, as JP mentioned, onshore production of the key components. This is be a huge issue in offshore wind or in solar, as much as it is in the EV propulsion system technologies, that we're aiding companies to convert the production they have now to build technologies of the future, that we're providing additional opportunities to strengthen our manufacturing communities and build supply chains. But in addition, we want to ensure that as we invest in infrastructure or provide tax credits for new technology, that we are simultaneously incentivizing strengthening our domestic manufacturing sector, building greater domestic content in our products, and ensuring high quality jobs.
Thank you.
And that's and that we think about the situation that you described. We've seen declines in manufacturing, lost jobs, declining labor standards, not by accident, but as a result of a whole range of, as you mentioned, trade and tax and other policies. We have the opportunity now to fix those policies to ensure that we don't see those kinds of losses, but even better, that we actually rebuild these industries, transform, ensure that these new technologies come with a new generation of good jobs, and for that matter, benefits to manufacturing communities and workers at the same time.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions in the audience we're joining into, but I want to squeeze in one quick one to JP. Quite a while back, a year back or so, I interviewed former Secretary of Energy Ernie Moniz, and he has a group called the Energy's Future Coalition, I think. And in it, he had proposed a big idea. Let's have an energy jobs coalition. Let's take advances in new green energies. That could be grid. That could be whole different things. It could be e-vehicles and e-trucks and e-infrastructure. But it was not just in terms of the the revolution that we needed in terms of infrastructure was also built around not just jobs, but giving people a new, tangible appreciation for the transition in energy in the country. I was very taken by it. As we look at the infrastructure bill, and we have, a question, about where, all of this sits within the infrastructure bill and reconciliation bill, whether these issues, are part of that, are part of those deals. But JP, I wonder whether or not, as we talk about this with such specificity, that specific set of contracts exists really in the infrastructure bill, or do you worry that the worker, these plans can be kind of washed away over time? What's your sense of where things are, JP? I know you do this every day.
So with any new technology, there's going to be apprehension among workers, and to make that existing technology work, and our members are not immune to that, or workers across America are not immune to that. And our union has worked closely with Secretary Granholm and her staff over Department of Energy, and we take an approach that our goals are achievable if we work together. And Zoe mentioned, public funding to help existing companies and new companies work in this space, and we would agree with that. But with that help, we would expect strong labor standards, so that they're not just good jobs, good union jobs, but that these are family-sustaining jobs. People can produce this new technology, this new energy, while also having good wages, good benefits, and stay in their community and really pull the community and the environmental groups and labor together.
Well, thank you for that. We're just about out of time, but I want to give one quick question here to Michael Dubois from Twitter. Asked, given the long recharge time, should we build stations that replace batteries with fully charged batteries or traditional charging stations? It's just a good question. I don't know. Do either of you have thoughts on what we should do by way of thinking of charging strategies? Zoe?
I guess I would say we're bound to see all kinds of innovation out here, but it's critical that whether we go with charging stations, whether we go with batteries, that we're doing everything we can to ensure that the pieces that go into them are made in the U.S., that we're ensuring that we're building good jobs in every part of the transportation supply chain, not just in manufacturing, but in the installation of charging stations, in the driving we do, etc.
Well, great. Well, we will leave it there today. This is a wonderful conversation. I hope to have you. Good luck with the Blue-Green Alliance. I guess you folks talk together a lot, but thank you very much. Zoe Lipman, Director of Manufacturing and Advanced Transportation at the Blue-Green Alliance, and John Paul Smith, Legislative Representative at the United Steelworkers. Thank you both so much for sharing your thoughts today.